Welcome to October, my friends. Whoa, easy. Is that an Omega candle in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? So the government shutdown happens and Bitcoin immediately begins going parabolic.
Fox News alert. Can you hear it? Nothing's happening because the government has officially shut down for the first time in nearly 7 years after the Senate failed to reach an agreement over spending before last night's deadline.
Coincidence? I don't know. Maybe we should shut it down forever. But we have a massive news day. We're breaking it down. And we'll see where Michael Saylor and Jack Mallers think Bitcoin is going from here. And why Bitcoin is the answer to a broken monetary system. So strap the hell in. We ride at dawn.
Every Republican who's gone on TV the last 12 hours or so has called this the Schumer shutdown. What do you say about that name? Senator Schumer, can you hear me?
I can't hear.
Senator Schumer, can you hear me? I don't think Senator Schumer can hear me right now. Maybe the government shutdown included audio on Capitol Hill.
Let's do this! The U.S. government has officially shut down for the first time since 2018. Congress blew past the deadline. And as of midnight, hundreds of thousands of federal workers are furloughed. The daily cost? About $400 million gone. And the question now isn't what happens to government services, but what this means for markets, the dollar, and of course, Bitcoin. Let's break it down. Here's the hard numbers. Roughly 750,000 workers per day furloughed, costing nearly $400 million daily, or saving $400 million daily. Last shutdown, December 2018, under Trump. It dragged on 35 days, the longest in history. The average shutdown lasts only about 8 days. The longer it drags, the deeper the pain. Right now, services deemed essential continue, but many federal functions are suspended until Congress passes a funding bill. So what does this mean for markets? In the short term, volatility. The S&P only finishes higher at the end of a shutdown, about 55% of the time. In the long run, it's all surprisingly bullish. 86% of shutdowns end with the S&P higher 12 months later. So we can see that markets usually shake it off. But the longer it drags on, the more short-term pain hits. But here's where it gets serious. Gold has been front-running this chaos. It just posted a 10% monthly gain and is up 45% on the year. That's 39 new all-time highs in 2025. Probably nothing. Meanwhile, the US dollar is tanking, on track for its worst year since 1973, already down 10%. Fed models say that kind of drop alone adds about 30 basis points to inflation. So pair a shutdown with rate cuts and rising inflation, and what do you get? Stagflation. So what happens after all this? The shutdown eventually ends with, wait for it, more deficit spending. Washington always kicks the can, digs the hole deeper. That's why Bitcoin matters. Bitcoin does not shut down at midnight. Bitcoin doesn't need Congress to pass a budget, and Bitcoin doesn't furlough workers. It just keeps running. Tick-tock. Next block. Oh, and yeah, apparently Trump is really leaning into the shutdown, seizing the moment to wear his new costume. He is allegedly demanding that press and staff refer to him as Donald the Orange. Actually, that didn't happen, but you could imagine if it did, right? Now let's continue. This, however, did happen. Look at it. The hat. The Diet Coke. Unbothered. In its own lane. Condensation dripping. Iced, carbonated. 0 calories, caffeinated, naturally flavored. Flourishing. There's also something about a sombrero going around. You probably should not look into that. But people are losing their minds because apparently an evil dictator is about to do away with income taxes and let you make as much money as you want. What a tyrant!
Is that if you go back before the 20th century, there were no income taxes, there were no regulations on business. You could earn as much money as you want, leave 100% of it to your children with no taxes. Right. That's the world they want back. And to get it back, they need society to change. They need people to be less modern. They need people to want fewer things.
Well, sorry to burst your bubble, madam, but what you just stated is actually The American dream. You don't have to try to sell it to us. We're kind of into that. Now, I do hope she's right, that we're returning to pre-1913 policies. And I don't know if she knows what happened in 1913, but it's kind of a big deal. And speaking of quote-unquote fascism, like, if you would have mentioned the government in bed with big tech and corporate welfare and big business working in hand with the government, then she would have nailed it. But nope. Allowing people to hold the fruits of their labor is tyranny. The more you know. Am I right? Now, after all this, you can see why Jack Mallers had this new clip on the flippening. The real flippening. From shiny rocks to digital blocks. A competition for the best money has begun.
The real flippening. What do I mean by the real flippening? Well, in Bitcoin, there's a term coined by Coinbase called the flippening. I kid you not, I swear to you. The flippening refers to a potential future event where Ethereum's market cap surpasses that of Bitcoin. While Ethereum has surpassed Bitcoin in some metrics, God, these guys are such fucking scammers. The flippening in terms of market capitalization has not yet occurred. So this is Ethereum. That's that 2017 blip on the far left. And this is it since. An utter and complete scam, an utter and complete shitcoin. So I say the real flippening because to me, the real flippening is a neutral reserve asset flipping US treasuries as a central bank reserve. Not any of these shit coins flipping Bitcoin. That will never happen. No, guys, what we've talked about on this show over and over and over again, we are moving back to a neutral reserve era. We are moving towards an era where monetary instruments are going to compete for who can sustain, persist your time, your energy, your effort, your labor the best.
I think we're entering an era where there's going to be a competition of monies. Because of the printing of fiat money, there will be a competition of monies, and Bitcoin is part of that competition.
Ray Dalio gets it. The world will have an open competition for the best place to store your time, your energy, your effort, your labor. You have a choice. You and your loved ones and the people you care about. You own Bitcoin, you're gonna get more housing, more food, more education, you have more kids, you're gonna live longer. It's a choice that you have to make yourself as a sovereign individual. Unfortunately, the government is not gonna make it for you. In fact, they're going to do the opposite.
The flippening to a neutral reserve asset is upon us, and Saylor just dropped a new interview with Bitcoin Magazine. We have some bullish and maybe a little controversial to some clip as well. But just as Jack Mallers was saying, the world is moving and flooding into sound money. And Saylor laid out how civilization is moving from gold to Bitcoin as the primary monetary network of the planet.
Somehow, 600 BC, everybody agreed that gold was valuable and gold was money, even though they could not agree on their gods, their cultures. They couldn't agree on anything else. But what's fascinating is the book takes it for granted that gold is money. Gold has been valued by thousands and thousands of different cultures, all killing each other, speaking different languages, worshiping different gods, but they're all fighting over gold. And so gold emerged as the primary monetary metal, not silver, not bronze, gold. For 300 years, if you look at the 17th century, the 18th century, the 19th century, even into most of the 20th century, the world revolved around gold-backed credit. Okay, we issued bonds backed by gold. The British bonds, sovereign debt in Britain in 1770 was a gold-backed bond. In the Rothschilds' times, they had gold-backed bonds, right? The French bonds were gold-backed. The German bonds, the Austrian bonds, the Spanish bonds, gold-backed. All of the credit instruments were, to a certain degree, backed by gold, and they would go off the gold standard and back on the gold standard. But this idea of gold-backed credit goes from the 1700s to the 1800s to the 1900s, all the way through 1971. And so we have hundreds and hundreds of years of gold-backed credit instruments. Then we have to wait, and Satoshi invents Bitcoin, and we fight over what is it, and no one can decide. And now, in the year 2025, we have consensus that Bitcoin is digital gold. So on the CNBC, talking heads agree on it. Everyone in the crypto economy agrees Bitcoin is the monetary foundation. It's digital gold. What are the other cryptos? Maybe they're digital silver, maybe they're digital copper, maybe they're digital palladium or digital platinum or digital silicon, but the history of Western civilization isn't based on copper bonds, right? And there was an experiment with silver, but silver bonds didn't really fly. Primarily, we settled upon one metallic monetary network, and now we're settling on one crypto monetary network.
There is no second best. And before we go into Saylor's hot take, Telegram CEO just called for $1 million Bitcoin and said, quote, governments keep printing money, but nobody is printing Bitcoin. Check it out.
In general, so you've been an early supporter of cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin. You've bought into Bitcoin early on. You kept buying. Maybe you could speak to the reasoning why you kept buying Bitcoin. Do you think Bitcoin will go to $1 million? Do you think it'll keep increasing? And Bitcoin and all the other cryptocurrencies.
I was a big believer in Bitcoins since more or less the start of it. I got to buy my first few thousand of Bitcoin in 2013, and I didn't care much. I think I bought at the local maximum. It's something like $700 per Bitcoin. And I just threw a couple of millions there. And a lot of people after Bitcoin later next year went down, somewhere close to 300, 200, started to express their sympathy to me. They say, oh, you poor fellow, you made this horrible mistake investing in this new thing, but don't feel bad about it. We still have some respect for you. And my response to them was, I don't care. I'm not going to sell it. I believe in this thing. I think this is the way money should work. Nobody can confiscate your Bitcoin from you. Nobody can censor you for political reasons. This is the ultimate means of exchange. And again, I'm now talking about Bitcoin, but it relates to cryptocurrencies in general. So I have been able to fund my lifestyle, so to say, from my Bitcoin investment. Some people think if I'm able to rent nice locations or fly private, it's because I somehow extract money from Telegram. But like I said, Telegram is a money-losing operation for me personally. Bitcoin is something that allowed me to stay afloat. And I believe it will come to a point when Bitcoin is worth $1 million. Just look at the trends. The governments keep printing money like no tomorrow. Nobody's printing Bitcoin. There is a predictable inflation, and then it stops. It's a certain point. Bitcoin is here to stay. All the fiat currencies remains to be seen.
Now, is Saylor planning to acquire 5% of the Bitcoin network? If so, what does that mean for its price? And what is actually riskier than owning Bitcoin? We're about to bring it home. But before we do, look at our likes.
3 or 4 times, maybe.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Let's take a quick second for our sponsors who keep this show on the air over at the Bitcoin Way. If your wealth lives in their system, it's not yours, it's theirs. That's why we scream Bitcoin. That's why you self-custody. And that's why you call our friends over at the Bitcoin Way. They'll walk you through multi-sig, self-custody, privacy, how to run a node, and the tools that keep you sovereign when the fiat system pulls the plug. Don't wait till it's too late. Book a free 30-minute consult today using that link in the show notes. Need cash but don't want to sell your Bitcoin? Ledn is the global leader in Bitcoin-backed loans, issuing over $9 billion in loans since 2018. and they were the first to offer proof of reserves. With Ledn, you get custody loans, no credit checks, no monthly payments, and more. Visit learn.ledn.io/simply to learn more and get 25 basis points off your first loan.
For our company, if we were to ever get to 5% of the network's going to be at least $1 million a coin. If we were to go beyond it, it's going to 10 million a coin. So when we get to 7% of the network, if we do, and Bitcoin is $10 million a coin, and if BlackRock keeps up with us, that means 85% of the network, right? And you're going to be talking about $200 trillion. So you're going to have $170 trillion that will flow to the individuals. So they're not exactly getting crowded out, right? If anything, what you've got is the corporations are all engines turning the flywheel of the Bitcoin economy. Every single company, every Bitcoin treasury company that capitalizes on Bitcoin is like attaching a motor to the network. And every time that company buys $50 million worth of Bitcoin, they spin that drive shaft one turn. That's one day's natural supply, right? And so the more companies that come on, whether it's BlackRock or whether it's Strategy or whether it's MetaPlanet or whether it's 21 or whether it's BSTR, or, or whether it's similar, whoever it might be, each one of them is firing up a motor. All of the motors are powering up the network. If you're an individual and you believe in Bitcoin, you buy the Bitcoin, you cold storage the Bitcoin, and you let all the companies power up the network.
Needless to say, Saylor has no plans of slowing down, and he's incredibly bullish. Now, here is one that some may find controversial. I see this thing a couple ways, but I want you to watch it, then we'll talk about it. Here we go.
If you're an individual and you believe in Bitcoin, you buy the Bitcoin, you cold storage the Bitcoin, and you let all the companies power up the network. If the companies didn't show up and the network was all individuals, Bitcoin would be trading $5,000 a coin.
No.
And here's the problem. It wouldn't just trade at $5,000 a coin, but the corporations, if they were to choose a different network to power up, if all the companies went to Bitcoin Cash or Litecoin or Ethereum or something else, Bitcoin would max out at 5,000 a coin and it would dwindle down to nothing because the companies would latch on to the next network, and then they would go to every government in China and Russia and Europe and South America and Africa and the US, and all the laws would be modified to benefit the other network and eventually squeeze the Bitcoin network out. So this is a protocol, and you could even say there's a protocol war, and it's a war to determine the future of money. And the war for the future of money is going to be fought and won with money. So in this particular case, it's the people that have the money are the institutional investors, and the people that can organize the money are the corporations. And if you want to win the monetary war, you need the institutions that control all the capital, and you need the corporations to get involved because you need the support of the government. The government can, with a stroke of a pen, right, block 99% of all the capital from flowing into a network, or they can enable it. And so I think...
What do you think? Let us know below. Would Bitcoin be at 5K without Bitcoin treasuries and BlackRock? Now I'll let you know what I think. I get it. And he isn't necessarily wrong. It's just kind of a straw man. I mean, the real question here is, where would MicroStrategy or BlackRock be without Bitcoin? Bitcoin is money. It is the best money. And the fact is, without Bitcoin, MicroStrategy would be nothing. And BlackRock would have missed out on the greatest performing ETF in history. MicroStrategy and BlackRock need Bitcoin, not the other way around. And you know why? You, and everyone needs Bitcoin is because the money is broken. That's why the real risk isn't owning Bitcoin. It's not owning Bitcoin.
Because I tell you what, we're going to take our reserve currency and we're going to smash buy. We're going to take our technology, we're going to build. We're going to take our entrepreneurs, we're going to support them. We're going to take our miners and we're going to hash. That's what we're going to do in the United States of America. And we're going to show you that democracy and freedom is the best way towards human flourishing and to support human civilization. Let's go. Open competition, fair competition. Let's go. And if you think your approach to human civilization and your approach to government is better, then let's go out and see. But we got the best entrepreneurs, the best miners, the best stackers, the best hodlers, the best mines. And no offense, I know I got a lot of people out there that are listening to this that aren't American. But what can I say? Born and raised, land of the free, home of the brave. That's how I feel. I'm not afraid of competition. We embrace it. So the way to de-risk this and the way to promote progress and growth is to go out and act on your principles. Don't be afraid. Listen, everyone's afraid of risk, but there's risk everywhere. You know what's riskier than buying Bitcoin? Not buying Bitcoin. What's riskier than buying Bitcoin is not buying Bitcoin, right? Getting in an Uber is risky. Getting on an airplane is risky. Going to the grocery store has some risk involved in it. You want to know how risky life is? None of us are making it out alive. Right? Land of the free, home of the brave isn't about being afraid of risk. It's about principles. It's about fighting for what we believe in.
So let's bring this all home. The U.S. government shuts down. Hundreds of thousands furloughed. Markets wobbling, the dollar tanking, gold ripping. And what does Bitcoin do? It rips higher. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe the signal's been screaming at us the whole time. Governments fail, Bitcoin prevails. Jack Mallers is out here calling the flippening. Not ETH over Bitcoin, that's completely regarded. But rocks to blocks, gold to Bitcoin. Michael Saylor is saying it flat out. Civilization is migrating to the best money we've ever had. And the CEO of Telegram, he just called for $1 million Bitcoin. And here's the truth. MicroStrategy doesn't make Bitcoin. BlackRock doesn't make Bitcoin. Bitcoin makes them. Without Bitcoin, they're kind of irrelevant. Without Bitcoin, they're roadkill on Fiat's highway to hell. But with Bitcoin, they ride the greatest asset of our time. So if you're asking what's risky, it's not owning Bitcoin. It's not owning Bitcoin, because when the government literally turns itself off, the block clock doesn't even blink. Tick tock, next block, sender. And before we wrap, grab those tickets to Mining Disrupt 2025. See the future of Bitcoin mining up close in Dallas, Texas, November 11th through the 13th. The biggest names in the industry, cutting edge rigs, Bitcoin and AI integration. The signal you won't get anywhere else. Grab your tickets today and use promo code SimplyBitcoin for 20% off, and we'll see you there. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. That's the show. Welcome to October. Buckle up and stack hard, because the real shutdown isn't Washington, it's the fiat system. And Bitcoin is what turns the lights back on. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and give us a pamp. Set those notifications for the best in Bitcoin news delivered to you daily. Love you guys. Catch you tomorrow. Peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, you.